There are a lot of people out there who talk about gold as the best asset you could own, the most important asset you could own, something that everybody should be buying at all times. I think it's important to really, before you get involved in any investment, you've got to really understand the merits of that investment, the advantages and disadvantages, the risks and rewards. Gold is a really interesting one. I think, like any asset, you've got to consider when thinking about the future of gold and silver, and I'll just talk about gold maybe more specifically in this case, but a lot of this applies to silver as well. You've got to think about it through the lens of supply and demand. That's a rational approach to it, instead of having a sort of more panicky, emotional, the end of the world is nigh, so buy gold. I don't believe that. The world's not coming to an end. Sure, there's a lot of problems, but I'm incredibly optimistic about all the opportunities and the tools that we have available to mitigate the risks in our own lives. Gold may in fact be one of those tools. Maybe for you, maybe not for you, but you've got to be able to understand it in order to make that decision. If you think about gold again through the lens of supply and demand, consider that gold supply essentially means that you have to have a certain number of mines in the world and new mines and new discoveries coming online from time to time just to maintain the gold supply, just to maintain new gold, the level of new gold coming onto the market every single year. And of course, gold is used in a lot of different things. It's not just like people buy gold coins or even jewelry. There's a lot of gold that's used in industry, gold is used in electronics, all sorts of things. There's a lot of industrial consumption for gold, so it's not just investment demand or even jewelry. So a lot of gold gets consumed, which means that you need new supply coming on, which means you need new mines and new discoveries. Well, there hasn't really been a major gold discovery in a long time. There used to be, these bonanza discoveries for a long time, these huge mines that would be brought online. Well, that hasn't happened in a long time. And gold company CEOs have been shouting this from the rooftops. Most people aren't really paying attention, but they're saying, look, there has not been a major discovery in a long time. There's not really any of these on the horizon. And so what does that really mean? If you think about gold through supply and demand, a lot of the existing gold mines are getting depleted, right? Those gold mines, those veins, they're running out, right? So they're not able to pull as much gold out of those mines as they used to. So they need new mines coming online to replace those older mines. But the new mines aren't coming online because there haven't been the discovery. So the future of gold supply would suggest some level of scarcity, and a lot of the gold company CEOs are in fact saying that. On the demand side, this is really what's interesting. Again, you've got a couple of different types of demand for gold. One is investment demand, and let's call that retail investor demand. That's from individuals, maybe businesses, and people that buy gold, or then they go through certain periods where they buy gold or they don't buy gold. Over the past couple of years, a lot of that retail gold demand from individual investors who would have bought gold otherwise, instead actually put their capital into cryptocurrency. So crypto took away a lot of money that would have otherwise gone into the gold market, so there was less demand for gold from retail investors. Cryptocurrency started going down, gold demand started going up from a lot of retail investors. But there is a little bit of a draw. A lot of people view gold and crypto as either or. I don't really see that dilemma. I've got a good friend, Dave, who said, I like whiskey and I like gin, and there's no reason for me to actually choose between the two. I can have both, and you absolutely can. So another key driver of demand is jewelry. And gold jewelry is a huge, huge, huge industry. This a lot of times tends to follow the economy. When people are flush with cash, they might buy more jewelry. If the economy is bad and business is suffering and maybe they're out of work, unemployed, they're probably not going to really be buying as much gold jewelry. And so that's something that does tend to trend with the economy. There's a little subset of both of those that a lot of people don't realize, that a huge driver of both gold jewelry and that retail gold investment demand actually comes from India, and even more specifically, farmers and agriculture workers in India. And it's something that most people don't really know or think about. But when there's a really good harvest in India, farmers end up being flush with cash, and a lot of Indian farmers, they either can't use the banking system, the banks aren't close by them, they're unbanked, or they just don't trust the banks, and so they end up buying gold with a lot of their savings. It's gotten to the point where Indian banks will make loans to farmers using the farmers' gold as collateral, right? This is how developed gold is in Indian society. And so it's a weird thing. You can actually look at India's monsoon season and track gold prices and gold demand as it goes up and down, just based on weather patterns from Indian farmers. This is something a lot of people don't realize, but it has a lot to do with gold demand. But one of the biggest drivers of gold demand is actually coming from central banks. Central banks around the world buy gold by the ton. A single central bank can buy tons and tons, metric tons of gold, and it creates a huge demand boost. And this is actually one of the things we've been seeing. In 2022, central banks around the world bought more gold than in any other year since 1950. And the reason why is because a lot of these central banks around the world are getting fed up with the United States dollar. They're tired of the shenanigans, they're tired of the deficits, they're tired of the debt, they're tired of this, I'm not going to negotiate the debt ceiling, they're tired of the guy that shakes hands with thin air, they're tired of all of it, so they're starting to dump their dollar, trade their US dollars for gold, and they did that in record quantities in 2022. So this gives you a little bit of an idea about how to think about demand for gold and supply for gold, and you can kind of put those two together and make a rational, not fanatical, not emotional, but rational, independent-minded decision about whether or not you think gold as a speculation has a place in your own portfolio.